The main deck copy of Timely Reinforcements that you mentioned.
Your good friend, Core Firewalker.
Oh, yeah.
Your favorite card. Round number 1 is underway here from Charlotte. Of course, we've got 9 rounds of modern action today, 6 tomorrow. Then we'll cut to a top 8, play 3 more, and crown ourselves a champion in the Queen City. Lancaster's going to start from the mountain. We're going upstairs right now. Let's get this party started with a lightning bolt.
And this is good news for Shaheen here. No turn 1 creature from the burn deck gives Shaheen a lot more wiggle room.
Gataxian Probe is actually going to be hard cast. You see a hand here with a Deflecting Palm, 2 Eidolon of the Great Revel, and a couple of lands there, 2 Wooded Foothills, and a Bloodstained Mire. Now, Shane's going to take a look at Deflecting Palm, and I think what he'll notice here is that that's actually not a card at all in this matchup.
Well, he does have some creatures in this deck. He's got copies of Tassiger and so forth, but it's a very easy card for Shaheen to work around once he has the information. He can either try to beat Arthur with a sea of 1/1 creatures like Lingering Souls and Mentor tokens, or he can save a removal spell for one of his large threats and kill it in response to the Deflecting Palm. In any event, Shaheen knowing about it means it should not be too hard for him to navigate.
Wooded Foothills is land number 2 here for Lancaster. Now he's going to go with a Goblin Guide. In attack, there will be a trigger. Shaheen will reveal Soorani, Solemn Visitor, a card that he has in his main deck to give him some edge against burn this weekend. It's a great way to close things out if you can get a little bit ahead.
Exactly. And I mean, these are the kind of threats that Shaheen's going to play if possible. Cards that are good enough to win the game on their own if they're uncontested, but help him a little bit in the beatdown/burn style matchups, and Soorani is one of those kind of cards.
Shaheen does miss his land drop, so he'll just have to pass the turn back. Lancaster will sacrifice Wooded Foothills on the end step. He'll be searching up probably some sort of dual land here since we are in that kind of format. Standard, of course, does have fetch lands, but no duels to search up. But we've got Sacred Foundry here for Arthur.
And Arthur here putting a large priority in getting in the damage while the getting's good here. Elected not to play the Eidolon last turn. I think I would have preferred as a sequence Eidolon on turn 2 with a turn 3 guide and Eidolon. But Shaheen did have a path that he didn't cast last turn in anticipation of the Eidolon, so Arthur's odd sequencing may have actually gotten him in more damage this way.
You can tell Shaheen doesn't want to use the Path to Exile on that Goblin Guide. He wants that Goblin Guide to be able to find him some lands.
On top of that, he knows about the Eidolon, and it's very important for Shaheen to kill that card because his deck does not operate very well against that card.
Wooded Foothills is the land. Lightning Helix was the draw for Lancaster. He's still got those 2 Eidolons, a Deflecting Palm, and a Bloodstained Mire in hand. Goblin Guide will attack. Trigger is a Gataxian Probe. Not quite what the doctor ordered here for Shaheen. Do wonder if he's going to finally cast that Path to Exile.
Again, he's sort of sitting here because he knows about the Eidolon.
There is an Eidolon. That's going to resolve. We'll get a path here from Shaheen. Now, remember, it is on Lancaster to remember the triggers for the Eidolon. So this has been a thing that we've heard stories, kind of on the floor of modern tournaments where, I was at 2, I was dead to rights. I just need my opponent to forget their Eidolon trigger, and it does happen.
Yep. I mean, Shaheen did go to adjust his life total, so I assume he found the trigger, and we see him going from 13 to 11 here, so I think Arthur did get it. But yeah, Eidolon trigger is so important to remember.
Shaheen will shuffle up Lancaster's deck from that Path to Exile resolving. We know that Soorani's going to draw a copy of Gataxian Probe. He'll have to hardcast it. See the hand here for Lancaster. The Eidolon, the Lightning Helix, the Deflecting Palm, and that Bloodstained Mire. Those are the 4 cards that Lancaster's working with. In this situation, Shaheen can't afford to pay the Phyrexian mana. Don't want to do that against Burn. Drew a card, looks like it was a copy of Lingering Souls, a real Shaheen Soorani staple, but not going to help him right now as Lancaster looks like he might sacrifice that Foothills on the end step, and he will. So he'll get on to 18. We'll see him search up probably another non-basic here.
Yeah, Arthur's on a solid 3-color build here. He has main deck copies of Deflecting Palm and Atarka's Command.
Yeah, Burn's got a pretty wide range of stuff that it can do in this format. We've seen monocolor builds. We see some builds that have black for Tassiger and Bump in the Night. You'll find 3-color builds like this Naya version. Sometimes you'll even find 4-color builds.
Yeah, you can get pretty extreme with your mana. I mean, there was one point where I was playing a Burn list, I think 2 years ago, maybe last year, that had Bat to Nature and Tide Hollow Sculler in the sideboard. That deck was not good, but you can get pretty creative with the mana.
Lancaster's going to start off with a Lightning Helix. That's going upstairs while the counterspell shields are down.
Yeah, I like Arthur main facing the Burn right now. Doesn't have to play a spell snare, mana leak, anything like that.
Goblin Guide's going to come in a trigger. Ghost Quarter will be added to Soorani's hand. However, he'll have to take 2. Looks like he's going down to 6. And now here's an Eidolon. And for Shaheen, you're hoping the draw's Timely Reinforcements. Let's see what he's got here. He does have the Timely. That is pretty big.
That is, I mean, that's the best card he can have in this spot.
Yep.
No question about it.
And again, this is game number 1, and this is a main deck card for Shaheen.
But with Eidolon in play and the leftovers in Arthur's hand, he may be able to overpower this.
Yep. 3 soldiers will join, 6 life gained. Assuming Lancaster did remember his Eidolon trigger, 2 damage is dealt to Soorani. And I think that's what's going to be the question here.
And as you mentioned, you know, Shaheen talked about this. It's a card that gives him a shot in the matchup. No other card that he could have had in this spot realistically would give him a shot here in game 1. If it's Lingering Souls, that's not going to be good enough.
No,
here.
not at all. Not at all.
Another spot removal spell, another counter spell. One timely reinforcements does look weird, but then you see game 1 here, and with what Shaheen has in the sideboard, if this timely reinforcements is good enough for him to steal game 1, he's got a great shot at taking the match. He's got a lot of action here.
You know, it might seem like just, you know, one of main deck timely reinforcements. How much does this card actually shift to the burn matchup? Well, we're seeing it in play right now.
Yeah.
This could have a huge role in things. And we also know that Shaheen has that copy of Soorani in his hand.
Nice pairing. No black mana just yet,
Yep.
but he may have the time to find it now. Another thing that's nice about timely reinforcements here is there's a spectrum of these burn decks. Some of them have essentially no creatures. Some of them have essentially no creatures, and some of them are very creature heavy. And so sometimes a classic card is going to be good against one of the burn decks and not the other. Life Gain's very good against burn, but not creatures, and the removal is very good against creatures, but not burn. But timely reinforcements is good no matter what.
Goblin Guide trigger. Island is the reveal. Shaheen looks like he's going to be blocking very, very quickly here. Just wants to decide how he's going to go about doing it. He does have to worry about that deflecting palm a little bit now, I believe.
Well, not on this block. Deflecting palm is only damage dealt to
Okay,
you.
gotcha.
So that's why it's so easy for Shaheen to work around it. It doesn't influence blocks at all.
How about a little triple block? Got to get that Eidolon off the table.
Was it declared the trigger was missed, or?
So Eidolon's off the battlefield now, and with the timely reinforcements, the trigger was missed. Now here's a Boros Charm, and I still like the main phase burn action.
If you're going to do it, there was an argument here for Arthur giving the Eidolon double strike, allowing him to swallow up all the tokens and keep the Eidolon in play. But Shaheen's quick block here and the fact that there's a land on top of the deck could represent something like Supreme Verdict this turn. So it's not the worst idea for Arthur to just say, okay, the Eidolon's gone and I'm going to try to burn you out from here.
Now, one thing you will find here, however, if you can see Shaheen's hand, he's got a copy of Lingering Souls, but no black mana to flashback. Sorin, no black mana to cast it. Cryptic Command, no third island or blue source to play that. So he is a 3-color deck.
Yep, and the Ghost Quarter here is doing a lot of damage in that respect.
Yep.
Now, you know, I watched Shaheen play in the Invitational with a very similar deck, and he played against a Tron strategy and had no shot. So it's not like the Ghost Quarter is there for no reason, but he is paying cost right now.
Lingering Souls will bring 2 spirits, the soldier token from Timely Reinforcements. We're going to head back Lancaster's way. Even though Soorani's looking to stabilize here, he is still not in great shape. Goblin Guide's going to come across. Monastery Mentor is the reveal. And Shaheen wants to block, so he's going to triple block if he's allowed to. The spirits will get knocked down. Soldier token will be left behind. Does Lancaster have more burn to play on the main phase? He's got a Lava Spike, so the answer is yes. Soorani down to 3. We know he's got a Deflecting Palm. He's got a couple other cards over there, actually. But if they were burn spells, I think he would have fired them off. So to be fair, yeah, he might have like a card like Searing Blaze in his hand, but hasn't had a land to play just yet.
I think that if there's Searing Blaze, we may have seen by now because Shaheen's presented enough one-toughness creatures that even though you can't, of course you would like to landfall it, but there's been enough good spots to just cast it for 1. I think we would have seen it by now. And there are also 0 copies of Searing Blaze in the deck. I guess Deflecting Palm is kind of taking that spot of interaction with creatures.
Fair enough. You do wonder if Shaheen's going to try to play around Searing Blaze in a game like this, if it's possible. It doesn't appear it will be possible because Shaheen's going to try to win with creatures.
Yeah. No way to really avoid it.
Here's 3 mana. That's Monastery Mentor. Pass the turn back. I do like the no attack with Soldier there, just in case Arthur does draw a Goblin Guide. I don't think Shaheen has any interest in trading his Mentor with that.
No.
Here's 2 mana. That's a Boros Charm. That's going to get the job done for Arthur Lancaster, who does win game number 1 here over Shaheen Soorani. Burn up a game over Esper Mentor, even though Shaheen did draw his copy of Timely Reinforcements in the main deck and Arthur missed the trigger with the Eidolon of the Great Revel. Burn is a very difficult matchup game 1 for Shaheen.
And I was not a fan of the way that Shaheen tapped his mana there on that last turn. He could have left up the Celestial Colonnade and at least given Arthur pause that something like Dispel or Spell Snare could have been in his hand. He left the Plains up instead, and so it's trivial for Arthur to go for the kill there, and he's up the game.
Well, we're going to go to the sideboards here. Both players will look at their 15. We'll do the same. We will start with Shaheen Soorani in his Esper Mentor deck, where he's got a Wrath of God, he's got a Supreme Verdict, so a 1/1 split on those mass removal effects, 2 Surgical Extractions, a Dispel, a Thoughtseize, 2 Celestial Purge, 3 Core Firewalkers, 2 Stony Silence, a Gideon Jura, and a main deck copy, or excuse me, a sideboard copy of Bribery.
So the obvious ones, the 3 copies of Core Firewalker, awesome in this matchup. Very hard for Arthur to beat if Shaheen has it on time. The copy of Dispel is also excellent here. Anytime Shaheen can trade 1 for 1, it's a victory for him in the matchup because Arthur has to get him down from 20 to 0 with spells. He needs all of his spells to do that, and so any 1 for 1 trade is very powerful, especially alongside Snapcaster Mage. In fact, the 1 for 1 trades are so good that you may see something like Thoughtseize come into the matchup as well, even though it doesn't seem like it would be great, just because trading is at such a premium. The 2 copies of Celestial Purge also fine for this matchup, though Arthur is not playing with that many creatures.
What do we see in the burn sideboard?
2 copies of Relic of Progenitus, 3 copies of Core Firewalker, 4 copies of Destructive Revelry, 3 copies of Rending Volley, 3 copies of Pyroclasm. The cards that I think are definitely going to come in, the 2 copies of Relic of Progenitus, Shaheen's got stuff going on with the graveyard, and it's a very low opportunity cost for Arthur to bring those in because they cycle in the worst case scenario. Also, based on the cards that he saw, Lingering Souls and Monster Mentor, it's not out of the question that he would bring in something like Pyroclasm. I don't like playing that reactively with a burn strategy, but Shaheen has presented a lot of threats that Pyroclasm is good against. The 2 relics are the only things that I'm certain about here.
Yeah, you mentioned some of the graveyard cards that he did see, and I think there are some assumptions he can make as well with Shaheen's playing a blue deck, so Snapcaster Mage has got to be hanging out.
Exactly. So again, the cost is very low because it cycles, and it's going to be good against a reasonable percentage of Shaheen's draws. What's noteworthy here, no answers to Core Firewalker.
Yep.
Arthur's got no outs if this thing shows up early enough in the game.
Well, these players will shuffle up for game number 2. Soorani will be on the play. In the meantime, we will talk about the StarCityGames.com newsletter. It's your source for Magic the Gathering news, and if you do follow that, you would have found out about Shaheen's deck list ahead of time.
Exactly. All the best content on Star City Games cultivated by Cedric Phillips. Here you get information about the Open Series, including a match of a week, exclusive deck lists, and advice from our columnists, including Shaheen Soorani, who's playing a deck from the newsletter right now here in round 1, and an exclusive cardboard crack comic. This is all for free. You can sign up right now at StarCityGames.com/newsletter.
You're bringing out the F word early this weekend.
Well, there's going to be a lot of it.
Yep.
A lot of these promotions are free. Just got to sign up.
And as you like to say, you aren't doing anything else.
You weren't doing anything. You were looking at pictures of kittens or, you know, following someone's Facebook page. Or it's just some. You could just do this instead. It's fine. It takes 2 seconds. You go right back to the pictures of cats or the person you're looking at photos of on
just
Facebook.
Close the Instagram.
Right.
That's all. Pinterest?
Pinterest.
Is that a thing that people do?
Yeah, for sure.
I don't even know what that is.
It's a thing where you can post images of. I don't quite get it.
I don't really understand it at this
Right.
point. You know, there's so many social media networks out there now that some of them are just lost on me.
Right.
I don't get them all. I actually think there are just too many.
My girlfriend has a Pinterest. She's tried to explain it to me, and it hasn't. I don't quite get it.
Hasn't
still.
resonated with you?
No. It's like photos of things she likes or things she would like to own at some point. I don't know.
You need a website for that?
I suppose so.
All right. I know that, Vine is a thing. I don't even know if that's even a thing anymore.
Yeah, that's good for funny clips, I guess. I don't know. This is all so new to me. I'm not the right demographic.
You've got your Twitter.
Which was that, by the way, is a huge concession.
I know that. That's a big step for you. You've got your Twitter, you've got your Facebook. That's good enough for you.
Right.
I thought about Periscope for a little while. A little too much going on with that.
Yeah, so I was at the county fair, and Brian Kibler, I was there with him, and he kept putting his phone into my face and asking me questions. And I was just cursing and being belligerent because why is this phone in my face? Turns out that was Periscope.
Everyone could see you.
Yeah, I don't think his Periscope had a lot of traction at that point.
That's good. Faded it.
Yeah.
Hopefully it didn't save that video.
Yeah, I hope not.
For those of you curious, 509 players here in Charlotte doing battle in our modern main event. Healthy turnout, as always, here in the Open Series. Pretty big tournament for a couple of players. Andy Jessup, Chris Van Meter. We've got Jerry Thompson in the house this weekend, made the trip out from Seattle. Todd Anderson made the drive over. Someone who we are predicting is going to make the top 8 here.
Oh, yeah. Teamer twin master.
Indeed. Very, very skilled with that deck.
He just posted his 75 yesterday, too, on Facebook.
He said, come and get it.
Come and get it.
Yep. If you think you can beat me, here's the 75. I'm playing. We're going to find out, that's for sure. For now, though, we do watch Shaheen Soorani versus Arthur Lancaster. Lancaster up a game with his burn deck over Soorani in his Esper Mentor deck. Looks like Shaheen is happy. Remember, Shaheen's configuration after sideboard is quite good. He's able to take out those bad cards, bring in a lot of good ones.
And particularly against Arthur's build, who is just without outs to core Firewalker.
Yeah, it's very difficult for him to beat.
Sometimes you see Path to Exile, even Pyrite Spellbomb shows up in some decks from time to time. Arthur's got nothing here.
You can get a little cute with a card like Skullcrack with the damage prevention mode. Is that, that's a way.
Yeah, that's a hard way to do it. I mean, you can get some weird workarounds.
Yeah, I didn't say it'd be easy. I'm just saying that's a way.
You can cast a spell, and then in a response, a Tarkus command, so they don't gain life off the first spell.
There's some strange workarounds.
Yeah, trust me, I've tried them all. It's tough. Yeah. You're not likely to be very successful.
Lancaster started the game off with a Copperline Gorge into Monastery of Swiftspear for a little point on Soorani. Now he's sacrificing a Wooded Foothills. Gets himself a Sacred Foundry, going down to 17 in the process. We'll see what the follow-up is. For Shaheen, that Ghost Quarter's shown up again.
Yep, and just like the timely reinforcements really swings the matchup for him in game 1 in his favor, in a very subtle way, the presence of Ghost Quarter damages him in this matchup a lot because he needs to cast his spells on time, and Ghost Quarter makes it much harder for him to do that.
An attempt at a main phase Lightning Helix gets countered by Mana Leak. Swiftspear did get a Prowess trigger, so it looks like it's going to be 17 all as Shaheen goes to his third turn. The question is, does he have a third land to play? Looks like he does have a Polluted Delta in hand, so that's good news for Soorani. Also, Serum Vision's hanging out over there, so now he's trying to figure out how he wants to sequence these spells. So we'll start with the Delta.
And part of the complexity of sequencing in this format, especially against Burn, is unlike Legacy, your dual lands come at a huge cost to get off of fetch lands. So the first question is, can he afford to go get something like Watery Grave and put into play tapped? Because he doesn't want to put his lands into play, his dual lands into play untapped if he can avoid it.
Yeah, he's got to play this game, yep, and there's a Water Grave that's going to enter the battlefield untapped, so he's trying to juggle his life total here, but taking 2 from Water Grave untapped, Arthur's got to be pretty happy about that.
Yeah, and you can see Shaheen waited there for a while before doing this because this is the worst case scenario. He's looking to avoid this at all costs. He can't really afford to give Arthur points on the house, and that's what these dual lands represent.
And this is one of the things I actually enjoy about Modern is the decision-making process on what lands to search up with your fetch lands. Because you have access to all the duels, and you've got 10 fetch lands, but these aren't free of charge as Shaheen's going to play a Serum Vision. So he'll draw a card and now scry 2. Legacy, as you mentioned, so much easier. You've got dual lands. So.
And another thing that's painful about this fetch right here is that Shaheen still doesn't have double white. I suppose he get Ghost Quarter his own land and go get a Plains in the event that he finds Core Firewalker, but it is making him problematic to cast that card, and that's his best chance of catching up in this game besides timely reinforcements.
Ghost Quarter, a.k.a. Mana Fixer.
Yeah, does it all.
Yeah, slices and dices. Looks like we're going to go 1 on top and 1 on bottom here for Shaheen, though he is figuring out what he wants to do with this 1 card. It will go on top now. He'll pass a turn back with a Mana Leak at the ready. Lancaster will draw a card. 2 lands, Swiftspear, that does need to untap, but I suppose it can stay tapped because we know where it's going.
Yep.
There's Sacred Foundry untapped. Lancaster going to go down to 15.
It looks like Lancaster's hand is all heat, too.
He'll start by suspending a Rift Bolt. That will not trigger the Swiftspear, as the spell has not been cast yet. Swiftspear is going to come across for 1. And now Soorani will draw. And all he can do is pass the turn back yet again. Rift Bolt going to come off. That'll trigger the Swiftspear. Also going to deal 3 to Shaheen. Can't Mana Leak that one. Lancaster will take a draw.
And now the game here for Arthur is You know, can he make Shaheen use his mana inefficiently? Every time Arthur gets in some little chip shots here, and Shaheen doesn't have an opportunity to counterspell or his whole turn, that's how Arthur squeezes Shaheen out of the game. And now Shaheen's in the spot where, you know, he's looking at a mana leak. He doesn't want to mana leak this because who knows what Arthur has in the follow-up. He also doesn't want to let it resolve because look at his life total. He can't afford these kind of exchanges.
There's Path to Exile. And Shaheen would like to lightning bolt that, would like to mana leak that lightning bolt, but he'd also like to save that mana leak for something a little bit better, like maybe a Boros Charm.
Yep. And now you're seeing the cost here of the path also. Arthur's hand's all spells, so he can definitely use the mana, and Shaheen's sitting on mana leaks as well. So maybe Arthur gets to 5 mana and can start resolving 2 mana spells and pay for mana leak. Path of Exile is very powerful. It's not free, though.
And Arthur's been very smart about how he sequences his burn spells, too. Been doing it when Shaheen's tapped out of mana, or he's been waiting when Shaheen has mana available.
Yep.
Shaheen going to play a Hallowed Fountain tapped.
I still think that Arthur needs to fire off something here at the end of the turn because his hand's so jammed up.
You got to start letting it rip at some point.
Yeah, listen, I love playing around with counter spells. You don't want your opponent trade for one for one, but right now Arthur's got no shortage of spells. The issue is mana, and so I would prefer for him to use some of the mana at the end of Shaheen's turn.
Now, the thing here is it's all about timing on when he's using these burn spells. It looks like he's casting these on his main phase. My preference, if I'm Lancaster, is just play them on Shaheen's upkeep or end step.
Well, if Arthur's following up with another spell right now, I'm fine with this. But yeah, otherwise he should be waiting until Shaheen's upkeep.
Here's an Inquisition. I'll show you a hand. Eidolon, Skullcrack, Atarka's Command. It's a good hand.
But this is a hand that can't easily get Shaheen to 0. It can get him to 1 pretty easily.
Yep.
But it can't get him to 0.
Now, I think of these, I want to take Skullcrack here because he's only got 1 source of green mana.
There's an argument, assuming that Shaheen doesn't care about the Eidolon.
Looks like he's going to go with the Atarka's Command. Pass that turn back. Now, in Shaheen's hand, he does have a Snapcaster Mage. It appears. And he's also got a copy of a Soorani. So that could be a way to try to go about winning this one.
Oh, for sure.
Going to fire away with the Eidolon. We might have a response here.
Now, the issue here is that if Shaheen goes, all right, I'll flash in a Snapcaster Mage, and I'll path your Eidolon and go to 5, untap cast Soorani, plus and try to attack you, he's dead to Arthur's life gain prevention spells.
Correct.
He may need to flash in the Snapcaster Mage regardless because he simply can't afford to let this rot in his hand, and he can't cast it once the Eidolon's in play. But if Arthur here follows up with a spell and taps out, that gives an opening for Soorani to do some real work.
Yes. And I think that's what Shaheen's trying to work him into. He says, I'll target Path to Exile with Snapcaster Mage. So what Shaheen kind of wants to do here is say, okay, end of turn, I'll cast Path to Exile on your Eidolon, and hoping Arthur says, all right, while the shields are down, I'll blast you with one of these burn spells, and the Shaheen can try to turn the corner there. Shaheen not going to flashback Path to Exile, however.
Going to 5 suddenly makes Arthur's hand lethal.
Yep. Now here's Soorani. Looks like he's going to leave that Ghost Quarter available. Looks like Soorani's going to go up to put a Vampire on the battlefield. Solemn Visitor, not Lord of Innistrad. Excuse me, it's going to go down. It is Soorani, Solemn Visitor, not the Lord of Innistrad.
And that's a spot where I think that Arthur needed to cast a spell there just so in the event that he draws another spell, he can cast everything in 1 turn.
Yep.
If he's found Boros Charm here, then I think he has 7 regardless. But if he drew something like Rift Bolt, he would be unable to produce a kill.
Here's an attack from the Eidolon.
At this point, Arthur's just hoping Shaheen does something to put the shields down.
Yep.
But assuming Arthur just follows up and plays his spells, he should be good.
It looks like he's reaching for mana to do just that. Here's Boros Charm going upstairs. And now here's a skull crack, and that's going to do it. Arthur Lancaster is going to win this match here over Shaheen Soorani. 2-0. Burn will take down Esper Mentor to start our day. Does look like a difficult matchup for Shaheen. He definitely had some mana issues over the course of those 2 games, but at the same time, he's chosen to build his mana base a certain way. He's got a lot of duels, a lot of fetches, and that Ghost Quarter really came back to hurt him.
And your margin for error is so slim. You know, it feels like that Ghost Quarter that he drew compels him to search for the Watery Grave, so his colors of mana are online, and he loses that game with, if he had a little more breathing space, he would have been fine.
Yep.
So it's easy to look at the lands that someone's playing with and just say those are the lands. They don't really influence matches very much, except for something like, all right, well, Colonnade definitely makes your control matchup better, and Ghost Quarter helps in the matchups where your opponent has lands that matter. But the reverse is also true. The Ghost Quarter damages your matchups in spots where having your colors on time matters, and he played against exactly that kind of matchup in round 1.
Yeah, and this is a matchup that